virtual reality, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to fit into our lives. What do you think the possibilities are?
I have no idea. I just tried the headset on. It was an Oculus Quest 2. So last week I tried my first virtual concert. So I made a virtual avatar of myself. I went in and watched this concert with my VR headset, and I could see it being performed live. And then random people would come up to me and talk to me.
Wait a second.
It was a very interesting experience.
You were communicating with other avatars or people that were at this concert that was only happening virtually? Or was the concert itself real?
The concert itself was real.
Okay.
And they let if you had a VR headset, you could go in and watch it in this kind of virtual lounge. And then there are other avatars, which were real people.
Right.
And then assuming you have your microphone and headset stuff turned on, people could come up to you or you could go up to them and just talk to them. So there's obviously...
That's another level that I never even thought about happening. I thought I would just passively be engaging or watching in something. But this is now exchanging, engaging, interacting with other people who are showing up as avatars.
Correct.
If you're within the sound of my voice, you are watching or listening to the Sterling Spin podcast, and I am really excited to bring you a new spin on learning, living, and loving. I also find that we often find solutions for your well-being. So welcome to the program. I'm Liz Sterling, and with me in the studio is Sergio Angeles, and he's been working with building communities and companies that are to better the world is really what I heard you say in some of the written materials. How do you like that one?
That's a new one.
I could hear you. Yeah, I heard you say in the written materials. Sometimes you do hear a person's voice in the way they write. So you're in media making, Longmont Public Media. You're the executive director. You've been working with Fortune 500 companies in the past, and now you're with are we at Longmont Public Media for profit?
We're a nonprofit.
We're a
501c3. Yep.
Okay. Let's find out a little bit about your history and going from being in the corporate, Fortune 500, working with companies to now being in a nonprofit and really close to the community.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first, thank you for having me on, Liz. I really appreciate it.
You are thank you for saying yes.
Well, of course.
I'm so glad. You're the executive director. I mean, that's like a big thing.
That's not that big of a deal.
All right. It's every day.
It's every day.
Yeah.
I have I guess kind of an interesting background, kind of like you said. So, in college, I had the opportunity to intern for an IT consulting company. This was in Richmond, Virginia. And they actually asked me and a friend of mine to drop out of college to go work with them because they needed developers at the time. Wow. And there was quite a bit of a shortage. This was 2012. I decided to stay in college because I wanted to finish, get my degree.
And your parents insisted.
And my parents also insisted. But after college, I did IT consulting. And this company that I worked for was predominantly working with Fortune 500 companies. So one of my first clients was Bank of America. We did a big automation process with them, back-end coding. And then I had the opportunity to work at Navy Federal Credit Union and doing iOS development. And then what I really wanted to do and kind of what my passion at the time was Android development. So I had the opportunity to then work, still doing IT consulting, but for Marriott on their Android team.
And when you say Android developing, I think of Android phone versus an Apple phone. So
Correct.
are you an Android person?
I am an Android person. Yep. Yeah, so that's how I started coding. That's what I learned.
And that's what you're sticking with.
And that's kind of what I stuck with.
I remember the moment I realized I had a choice to go from Android to the Apple products. And I went to go visit my daughter, and she was like running around the apartment carrying her little laptop. Wherever she went, there was her laptop in Kimmy's arms. And I'm like, I want to feel that much fun when I'm playing with my computer. So I switched in that moment.
Okay. Nice.
But of course, you're steeped in technology, coding, and Android, and working with the companies. What happened? How'd you get to be executive director of a 501c3 nonprofit?
Yeah. So, that was a long journey. So around 2016 or 2015 to 2016, my dad had a heart attack. I was still on the East Coast. He was here. And I was also just starting to feel unfulfilled with the work I was doing. And I've been always entrepreneurial kind of growing up, starting other ventures in college. And I said, I want to try something. And, with what was happening with my dad at the time, I said, hey, I'm going to go back. And my parents
Was it just you to go
Correct.
back?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just me, my parents, my family live here. So I came back, started getting plugged into the entrepreneurial startup scene in Longmont, met a lot of people. And then that was 2016. Of course, that was an election year. And truth and news and misinformation was
Growing.
And one of the ways that I liked at the time to know what was going on in my community was the newspaper. And so I would just go into the Times Call and I just said, this is garbage. I have no idea what's happening in my city. So I met other people through the startup communities, met my co-founder, Scott Converse, and after a breakfast in February 2017, we decided to start a nonprofit newspaper.
Wow, that's really cool and very courageous.
And obviously that is not my background. That was not Scott's background. But we're like, hey, we can figure this out.
But you wanted to be informed.
Yeah.
And you wanted to know what was going on. You needed to sort through what wasn't true and
Correct.
fake news. And so you thought, hey, I'll do it for me. And then other people will get to have the experience and advantage of that also. I wanted to go back for a second and ask you a question. I'm curious. When you said, I was living on the East Coast and I was starting to feel not quite fulfilled, how does that happen? Is it like you wake up one day or you have little creeping thoughts in, or what was your experience like for that, knowing something wasn't sitting right anymore?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me it was I'd been on this team at Marriott for a while, and that team began to shrink. There's budget challenges.
Shrink because they weren't paying or hiring as enough people.
Yep.
Got it.
So basically, I was the only one on this team for about 3 or 4 months. And I think that's when I realized I'm like, okay, I'm just a cog in a machine.
Yeah.
I'm not growing as much as I want to be. And I feel like I want to do something different that maybe actually makes a difference.
Also, I feel like a weight. If you're the person on the team, you have the burden of responsibility. You're carrying more weight than you expect to. And that's where it really, something's got to give. That's when you wake up, you go, something's got to give. So your dad's heart attack is really what woke you up. And you're like, all right, I'm going home. So here you are, newspaper parlays into obviously something more, because Longmont Public Media is different than a newspaper.
Correct.
Take us across the bridge.
So the Longmont Observer, which is what we named the entity, was a makerspace for news. So we taught people, how do you be a journalist? How do you fact check? How to use technology to fact check or report on? And as part of that, I mean, we actually started a podcast in our office, and we were seeing the digital divide, that people didn't really know how to leverage technology in a way that benefited them or the community.
So people have great ideas and they're able to begin to execute them. But then you have to be able to take that into what the world is today. It's a digital world. And if you don't know how to do that, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And then that person won't feel fulfilled.
Correct.
So you, out of necessity, started creating more programs to introduce the digital technology necessary to get someone from where to where.
Yeah, I mean, from 0 to 1, I would say. I mean, and 1
Just
is
the first step.
It's just the first step. I mean, it's lowering those barriers so people have access to equipment, technology, knowledge, resources, and that's really what Longmont Public Media is about, is breaking down those barriers.
You used the word space makers.
Media makerspace.
Media makerspace. I'm not familiar with it. So could you give me a media makerspace? And is that what Longmont Observer was? It wasn't a media makerspace because there were
No, correct. Yeah,
it was a different kind of something makerspace.
Yep. Yeah. So a makerspace is a term that's it's been around for a while now, but it's really just it's.
I should know.
Oh, it's fun.
Well, I'm
good.
learning in the moment. That's what this is all about. The Sterling Spin podcast, you learn.
It's really just like a collective of people that come together. Everyone has their own skills, strengths, weaknesses, and you put them all together, and then they create stuff.
So there's a collaborative element that goes into space makers, especially media space makers, where people have different experiences in different aspects of media, but everyone comes together and you make a production.
Correct. Yeah.
So that it happens. So
I mean, this is an example right here. We've got 2 people here behind the scenes that are helping you out.
We have 3 cameras. Anth, who's my producer, Ryan, who's on the soundboard.
Yep.
You're the executive director. And I'm just a person who came along and said, I love being in the broadcasting media. What's this whole thing about podcasts? Anth said, well, let's use the video cameras. They're in the room. We turn them on, and here we are. And it was like just a moment in time, and then everyone came forth to make it happen. I guess that must be...
That's a media makerspace in a nutshell.
Okay, so
you're
I'm
seeing
living
it work. Yeah, you're living it. Yeah, you're a part of it.
How does it feel for you to see like what's happening in terms of how people come together, get together, bring their skill sets? How is the evolution of that changed, and what do you call it or see it now?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, yay! I like asking good questions.
You always have good questions.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we've always the vision for Longmont Public Media was, one, innovating upon a public access model that continues to democratize media and information and breaks down barriers and provides individuals with resources to create the content that they want.
Well, okay, I have to one more time. You're more familiar with that than I am. So I'm like the lay person. I want to know what you said. I heard democracy, like
democratize.
Democratize. Yeah. Okay, but can you start from the beginning of that and just let's go slowly through it so I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so we want to democratize access to media, meaning that it's accessible to everybody. So regardless of how wealthy or not wealthy you are, any type of status, you can come in here and create the media that you want to create and learn about how you can create that media and use the resources here.
Okay, so a good example was someone just came in off the street last week while I was upstairs, and we're downstairs. This is where the podcast studio is, and it's a really cool studio. I came in on unexpected one day, and Tim, I guess he's the all-around welcome people and administrative and make things happen. He took me down here to the podcast studio, and I was like, oh, look at that. It's a real studio. And I put the headphones on, and he took a picture of me, and I took that picture, and I blew it up, and I put it in my home. And I started looking at it and looking at it and looking at it and remembering the feel-good feelings that I had when I was in radio broadcasting. And then I was like, why not? And it was really sitting in the chair that you're sitting in with the headphones on in the picture that it grew inside me until one day I walked into a meeting and I'm like, I want to do this.
I remember that. Yeah.
You remember the
I do.
meeting? I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, however you do it, I'm in. I want to do it. And 3, 4, 5 people all came and said, we're here. We can help. We can guide. We could suggest. So it's open for everyone and anyone.
Correct.
So that's the first part of what you're saying.
Correct.
Then the second part of that sentence that you stated.
Now I'm trying to remember what I said exactly.
It was big.
It was a big sentence.
Media they want to create.
Create the media they want to create.
Create the media that they want to create.
Yeah.
So are there any limitations? Can people do X-rated shows or R-rated shows here?
Unfortunately not. No, that is the one thing that
Figured
people
that's where
cannot.
my mind went
no,
to
hey,
right away.
people do ask about that.
They do.
And based on my understanding of history, particularly around public access, is that was a thing that people could do back then. We've since then nixed that here simply because, one, we also do work with teenagers and kids, and so we just want to avoid all the possible issues that may come up with that.
So give me a sense of who's walking in the door and how are they getting here to find out about Longmont Public Media, having these open channels, this access to the community. So give me an idea of what it looks like, feels like, the flavor.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint it exactly. I mean, we have, as I said, because we have and are trying to democratize access, we pretty much get everyone to come in here when they come in here, specifically around certain events. So like our lunch and learns tend to cater to older adults, seniors that may not understand or have knowledge about current technology. So we've been getting, individuals through that way. Just today we had, a parent who runs a nonprofit teaching like bike lessons. And he just wanted to know how he can get the word out about what he's doing. And I was like,
what will he do? Come and make a PSA or
yeah,
something?
come make a PSA, can make a video, and then use that to advertise on social media.
Sometimes somebody comes in and they know what they want. They just don't know how to get that done.
Correct.
So with me here is Sergio Angeles, and he is the executive director of Longmont Public Media. And we're going to find out more about the classes and opportunities and what drives you and what drives people to walk in the door in the interim. I'm Liz Sterling, and you're listening to the Sterling Spin Podcast. Please subscribe. That's what we'd love you to do. And you'll see a little bell. Hit the bell, because the bell will allow you to be notified whenever we have a new show that airs, and every episode comes out on Sundays. They drop on Sundays. I love that language. And you'll be able to see. Also, share with a friend, leave a comment, because we really care that you are here. So thank you very much. And I care that you are here and how grateful I am that you said yes. You're doing a lot of programs that are teaching people in a lunch and learn, you just were saying. So what is it that people you think need to learn? What are people responding to? What do they want to know about what's happening? And we're also creating the flavor of what Longmont Public Media is, because maybe you'll say, oh, I'm going to take this piece from the show that I just did with Liz, and I'm going to use that, and people will really get a sense of what we're all about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Make it a pitch.
I do so many pitches all the time.
I bet you do.
No, yeah, I mean, we've got classes on a variety of different things. Editing, podcasting, audio production is a big thing nowadays. AI is becoming more and more important.
Oh, let's talk. We'll make sure we hold that in the side
happy to
and
talk about AI.
it. Yeah.
Editing, video editing in general. How do you use a camera? How to use a drone? We've been diving more into like UAV mapping, which is using drones to map certain areas. We're starting to learn VR. We've got some VR headsets that we're experimenting with. Yeah, so I mean, there's always new technologies, and I think you need a group of people that can learn about it first and then find a way to kind of disseminate that information and how you can actually use it. I mean, I think that's a big thing that, small businesses, I don't think are taken advantage of. That was something that, during my consulting days, I mean, you see, corporations have the manpower to adopt new technologies very quickly.
Right.
But that doesn't really trickle down to small businesses or to the individual person. So how can you do that? And I think this is a way, LPM is a way for people to kind of get exposed to some of those technologies and how you can use it if you want to use it.
It's natural that it would be in the large corporations because they've got their ear to the ground. They know what's happening and they can pick up on it right away. And then they have the means to get the people to hone it so that they could use it to their advantage. But the trickle-down effect is the average person is not even hearing about it necessarily. And then how can they use it or how can it be beneficial? You're saying small businesses, but also for individuals too.
Correct.
I think it feels good. If I'm choosing to be part of a new community, I want to be in the know. I want to know what's going on, what's happening, what's relevant, and what's not. So virtual reality, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to fit into our lives. What do you think the possibilities are?
I have no idea. I just tried the headset on. It was an Oculus Quest 2. So last week I tried my first virtual concert. So I made a virtual avatar of myself. I went in and watched this concert with my VR headset, and I could see it being performed live. And then random people would come up to me and talk to me.
Wait a second.
It was a very interesting experience.
You were communicating with other avatars or people that were at this concert that was only happening virtually? Or was the concert itself real?
The concert itself was real.
Okay.
And they let if you had a VR headset, you could go in and watch it in this kind of virtual lounge. And then there are other avatars, which were real people.
Right.
And then assuming you have your microphone and headset stuff turned on, people could come up to you or you could go up to them and just talk to them. So there's obviously...
That's another level that I never even thought about happening. I thought I would just passively be engaging or watching in something. But this is now exchanging, engaging, interacting with other people who are showing up as avatars.
Correct.
I have a friend who's in a beta program through Stanford University. She's an 81-year-old woman, and she's working, I think it's not a headset. I think hers are glasses. And she's working with them, giving them feedback because here's an 81-year-old woman, and she can easily expect to live another 15, even 20 years. So I think they want to make sure that it's inclusive for some people who are a little shy of technology. But it's fascinating. So mostly for entertainment purposes, you think that
I think so.
VR?
Yeah. I mean, what was it? I think just a couple days ago, I saw a startup is partnering with all like major sports teams and at stadiums and selling virtual seats so that now you just watch a game right from that seat.
Yes.
I mean, that's a pretty interesting concept.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
How much it would cost, I don't know. But
I'm thinking back to if I wanted to go to see a public speaker, I like Deepak Chopra. He just floats my boat. And so because he's just absolutely brilliant. And when he speaks, I can hear his mind working. So I've traveled 5 hours, 8 hours to go and spend a weekend with him. And now all I have to do is just go on Zoom. And I'm sitting there, and I can be talking to other people also if they keep that open, the text part. And I think just what Zoom has done and what Google's done gives us a chance to have experiences that we never would have had before. And I remember during COVID, most of the museums opened themselves up and they made arrangements for people to take tours through the museums all throughout the world.
Wow.
Lots is happening.
Yeah.
That's very, very exciting. So I would imagine if you're the executive director and you said, I do pitches all the time, and I picked up the flavor of that. It's like, always working, always pitching. You have administrative responsibilities as well.
Yeah.
When I first was in broadcasting, I ended up producing a center, a wellness center, and people would come to the center. Then I would bring people to the center. Then I would have people working at the center. Then the next thing you knew, I was an administrative assistant to my job.
Okay.
And all I wanted to do was be talent. I just wanted to be on the air and talk and have a good time. So how do you find the way to manage what's required for you to market, do PR, do advertising, bring new business, get out in the world? How do you manage that with what I would imagine you love, and that is, being with the stuff? You've got a lot of stuff and tools and materials and information and cameras and lights and actions. So what's that balance like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky balance. The way that we're primarily funded is with a city contract. With the city. So we have a contract with the city of Longmont to provide public access services. So we
mean like a cable channel?
Yeah,
or
so we run
city events?
Yeah, we run 3 public access TV channels out of this building. We do a bunch of videography services for the city.
By contract.
Correct.
Okay, so that's like the main that
Correct.
keeps this
That
everything
keeps this
happening.
place open.
Okay, it's not just member supported.
No, if we did not do our job to keep that contract alive, then this would not be here.
So you have a fulfillment obligation to them contractually.
Correct.
So that they're here supporting this foundation of this building to be here.
Correct.
For all of the media makers that come and share the space.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So that's our priority all the time, is making sure we're fulfilling the needs of that contract. So after that, then it's the building, right? So it's running the makerspace. So we only have a team of 3 full-time, including myself. So it's a miracle, to be honest, that this place is even functioning, given everything that we have to do. And then we, as you said, we do have like a admin and community manager. So he helps us out with, marketing stuff, putting it up on all the social media channels, getting whatever we need to, wherever it needs to go.
You're doing what you teach people to do too.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. So, and then our executive producer takes care of all the videos, all the production work. I also do production if people need me or my team needs me. So I like to do all the live streaming stuff.
You do you like that?
Yep.
Like that's like an in the moment.
Yeah,
is it
in the moment.
immediate gratification.
Correct. Yeah. Too much. A big dopamine hit.
I was going to say that's dopamine in action.
So I like doing that. So yeah, I mean, I take care of. Obviously, I report to a board of directors, so that's who my boss is. So I have to make sure that I'm following what my board tells me to. Right. We have a strategic plan that we are in the process of working on. Yeah, the building, the operations, managing other interns that we have, and then technology that is here behind the scenes. That, I mean, we don't tell people kind of how things operate behind the scenes, but there's tech that runs. So it's taking care of all of that.
Wow, it sounds very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a lot.
It is a lot.
And do you have a family also? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm married. Yeah, so yeah, just my wife and I. And, live here in town.
So then you do like the home thing too. So
correct.
Do you separate?
I try to.
Home from work? How do you do it? How you do it?
How do I do it?
Do it?
Setting boundaries, or trying to set boundaries, and delegating, when I need to.
That's great. Boy, the sooner you learn how to delegate, the happier you are. Yeah. Except it's hard because who could do it the same way you do it?
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Catch-22.
But you have to let go of perfection, and that's been something that I've been working towards is letting that go.
You and everybody who's watching right now, we are all working toward. I think most of us are working toward letting go of perfection. Because when the world is something we can't control, at least we can control our lives. We could try and make it as good as we can. It gives us the sense that there's something that I have mastery over.
Yeah.
So I love what you're doing. Thank you so much. You're part of what gives me the opportunity to do what I love to do the best. So thank you. I really mean
thank
it from
you
the bottom of my heart.
you.
There's more. We could continue, but time's up. for the moment. So we'll ask you to come back again, Sergio Angeles. Thank you so much, Executive Director, Longmont Public Media. I know you're watching right till the very end, so please subscribe. Hit the bell, that'll pop up because that'll notify you when we drop a new episode every single Sunday. It's the Sterling Spin. I'm Liz Sterling. I thank you so much. And until the next time that you're within the sound of my voice, I'm wishing you well. I'm wishing you to be blessed. And I am grateful that you are here because your presence matters. Bye.